God spoke to us somehow to begin the facility, and quite a number of us have got no training in this field. And so he's putting a lot of emphasis in that area. He already began teaching on certificate level, diploma, and is on his way now to degree level. He has been in this industry for the last 28 years. You wouldn't believe that. So he has what we call institutional memory in as far as this industry is concerned. So he qualifies to be a consultant. And so, ladies and gentlemen, I want us to bring on Dr. Tommy Makina to take us through this session. Kindly, ladies and gentlemen, let us put our hands together. Welcome, sir. You're welcome.
Thank you very much, Master of Ceremony or Director of Ceremony. You know, I think this man who did this PowerPoint is going to be fired. Because, you know, I was in another meeting, I just gave him the flash and he's our IT manager. I said, go and put this thing on this flash, and it's not showing. So what do you think? I think he needs to go for a hearing, isn't it? Oh my God. Poor. Right. I think all protocol observed. I think I'm not going to belabor on the protocol. I think I'm going to write on the protocols which have already been observed. I always tell people this story, and I'm going to recapitulate or tell it to you again. There was a wise old man in the village. And the wise old man in the village knew answers to everything. So there were two young boys who said, we are going to confound this old wise man. So they took a very small bird, which was alive, in their hands, like this. They came to this young man, to this wise old man, and said, wise old man, is... It's okay, it's not working. We'll try to do it from paper. So they say to this wise old man, is the bird in this hand dead or alive? And the wise old man, you see, the bird was alive in the hand of the young man. And they wanted to say, if the wise old man said the bird is dead, the young man would just press and kill the bird and say, this time you are wrong. If the wise old man was going to say that bird is dead, they would just let it out because it was alive all the time. But the wise old man said to this young man, the life of the bird depends on you. So it was up to the young man to release the bird or to kill the bird. So I want to say to the funeral fraternity that the life of the industry depends on us. So if we don't take care of the industry, then the industry will just die a natural death. So as a teacher, I begin with that story. Today, I'm not representing Moonlight. I've come with the International School of Funeral Business Management. With all the years, I've 50 years, 80 years and so on. But in Zimbabwe, you'll notice that people come into this industry by inspiration. They just wake up, they've got a car, a pickup car behind there. They just say, I'm going to be an undertaker, because maybe there's no money in the family or they've seen other people prospering. But there's no education which is commensurate with what they want to do. In Zimbabwe, I remember in the 20s, we employed one guy who was a combi driver. I think those in Africa, you know what we're talking about when we're talking about the commuter omnibus people. He was a commuter omnibus people. We gave him a new ambulance for removals, to go to the nursing homes to do removals. You know what he did? He put the siren on, and he wanted all the other cars to move out of the road as an ambulance. And he had an accident. The body dropped out of the ambulance there. The assistant undertaker was hurt, injured, and including himself. So at the end of the day, you find, is it his fault that he was speeding with an ambulance? Is there a hurry in delivering a deceased body? What speed, what culture, what ethos must be followed when you are delivering a person who is already deceased? Are you going to hurry that person the same way an ambulance is hurrying a person with a heart problem to the hospital? So I think we need all the education we can get. I think our guest speaker, I think Madam Churchman, and they've been talking about the school, about mortuary science, about getting educated in embalming and knowing what to do. You know, in Zimbabwe at one point, we had families who were coming to complain to the association about undertakers who were injecting people with a raspberry. You know that drink called raspberry? You know, so there are a lot of unscrupulous undertakers, not professional. So we need to professionalize this industry. And one way we can do that is through education. So what I'm going to do is, I'm going to ask at the end of my speech, I've got some disclaimers here. I'm going to ask Madam Dr. Churchman to come and do a raffle to win some prizes from International School of Funeral Business Management. I've got 3 prizes. So those who are going to listen carefully, I think they are going to win. So that is at the end of my presentation. Right, one disclaimer, I'm not going to entertain any questions. Right? The idea from that lady, I think it's a good idea. The pink paper, which, what color is that paper? The yellow paper. You write your questions there. You know, this presentation was supposed to be done by our general manager. So I just took over the presentation. She was not able to come. So all the questions, you put them there. How long are the courses? What is involved? What the curriculum is all about, and so on. All I'm trying to do here is just introduce that we have an International School of Funeral Business Management, which you can take advantage of so that you get educated. And you know, education is power. So the International School of Funeral Business Management is an industry-based training and research institution focusing on skills and information development for the funeral industry and related sectors. ISFBM conducts workshops, seminars, and conferences, as well as investigating funeral practices to provide relevant information to business, government, private organizations, and general public. In order to shape the future of the global funeral services profession, the Institute carries out research and provides highly skilled professionals for the industry. So there are programs which are carried out by ISFBM. We have got short-term professional certificates in mortuary science, embalming, undertaking, funeral business management, assurance and services. Here now, Coopers is going into the funeral assurance business as a micro insurer. You can take advantage of that. I know in South Africa there's a separation between the services and the assurance sector, and in many other countries the service sector is on its own. So our vision is to be the market leader in the provision of an educational experience that helps to shape the future of the global funeral service profession. I think there's a phone call here. Our mission to provide the funeral industry with highly skilled professionals who can serve and meet the expectations of stakeholders. Our core values is innovation, diligence, excellence, professionalism, teamwork, and our major objectives are to enlarge the understanding and knowledge of the funeral profession through training. You need to be trained as an undertaker to know what you are doing. You know, the educated people say, if it's not written, it doesn't exist. We have got modules which are written and the things which have been experienced by people and experiences in terms of undertaking which you need to undertake. To qualify people as funeral practitioners in accordance with a comprehensive and relevant scheme of examination, practical experience and continuing professional development. To create a knowledge bank for the funeral profession by carrying out appropriate research, to raise the profile of the profession through increased awareness of the contribution made by funeral practitioners to the society. And our SFBM is results-oriented. So we start off with a certificate of proficiency in funeral business assurance and services. So the entry point depends on your qualifications. What have you done before? And then you can start at certificate level, maybe go to diploma level, and later to degree level. ISFBM tailor-makes courses according to organizational needs. So our flagship courses are Certificate of Proficiency in Funeral Assurance and Services, Certificate in Mortuary Science, Certificate in Cemetery and Crematorium Management, Diploma in Funeral Business Management. Short courses, Funeral Assurance Service Entrepreneur, Wellness and Self-Esteem for Funeral Practitioners, Bereavement Counseling, Infectious Disease Management for Funeral Practitioners, Marketing, Customer Service, Excellence in Funeral Industry Perspective, Religion, Customs in Funeral Services, Funeral and Funeral Service Ethics for Repatriation and Expatriation Procedures. So these and other short courses are available. Career opportunities, you can become a certified mortician, funeral consultant, funeral intermediary or agent. Providing the funeral aspect in both assurance and services. ISFBM is providing a well-structured learning structure which is formal, registered and approved by relevant ministries and organizations. Are you brave? Have you ever seen a dead body? Right, get into the mortuary, right? And then by osmosis you begin to learn how to embalm, how to do things, but you don't know the reason why you have to do certain things in the panel. So school helps you to understand why certain things have to be done. The Institute qualifies people as funeral practitioners, offers practical experience and provides refresher training workshops which are constantly and consistently reviewed and updated for a continuous professional development cycle. Our SFBM partnerships. SFBM is an MOU with Women's University in Africa. We went to the Women's University in Africa first because in Africa especially, you find that when somebody dies, the first people at the funeral, the people who are sitting with the body in the home, are the women. They don't even know what happened to this body, whether it's infectious and so on. But they are seated with in the night vigil for the whole night, for 2 days, for 1 day. And people need to be educated. And we also have a partnership with the University of Zimbabwe. The reason we are having a partnership with the University of Zimbabwe is because they've got the School of Medicine and the anatomy department. They help us in terms of training in embalming and things like that. We also signed an MOU with the Zimbabwe National Defense Forces University for the Army. So that university trains the police, it trains the prison warders, it also trains all the armed personnel, the chaplains and so on. And those people also confront death. They confront death on the war front, and they need to know what they are dealing with when they see a dead body. So we are also dealing with those people. So in Zimbabwe, ISFBM works hand in glove with the Ministry of Health and Child Care as we train the funeral industry on all health issues affecting the nation, both locally and internationally. We step in to curb and manage pandemics and outbreaks, for instance, the COVID-19 pandemic and the heat of outbreaks affecting us currently, like cholera, mumps, and typhoid cases. Global impact. To date, ISFBM has trained morticians in Zimbabwe, South Africa, Botswana, Kenya, and they have inquiries from Malawi. I hope Malawi is going to join us also, as students. Ghana and Zambia to enroll for 2024 intakes, to mention a few. ISFBM has students overseas with our qualifications to name but a few. We have United Kingdom and Canada. So if my PowerPoint was working, you would see the graduations we have hosted in the past 4 years. We have been graduating people in the past 4 years, certificate level, diploma level. We are yet to come to the degree level. So our model of learning is theory, practical, and then examination. We have won some corporate awards, and I think you have got a brochure in front of you which says admission is now open and enroll with us. So if you have any questions, our general manager is called Yvonne, and we have put your contact details, your email details on the brochure you've got. So all the questions you can ask him. We are on Facebook, we are on Twitter, and we are on LinkedIn. And the address for ISFBM is Longshen Mall, Belvedere, Block 2 and 3, Suite 2301, Harare, Zimbabwe. We've got the email address there. So, in short, that's ISFBM for you. All we are saying is a call for us to get trained as funeral practitioners. So at this point in time, can I ask Madam Churchman to just do, yeah, you can go ahead if you want to clap. I have just three t-shirts. I don't know why she gave me 3 t-shirts. She should have given me more. We are going to do a draw. So that there is fairness. We ask someone from America. If you pick your own name, it's okay, we can give you a t-shirt from Africa. There she is. We tried to shake, right? And our first winner is, you can read this one, Shepherd Nkonowe Nzo from Zimbabwe. Well done, that's from Nyarazo Funeral Assurance. the big giants from Zimbabwe. Well done, and can you get your T-shirt from well done, from Madam Churchman? Yeah. Right, we are trying to shake so that the Zimbabwean things go down. We want to somebody from Kenya or what should I do? I should shake it like this. Oh. Like what? All right, okay. Oh, she's doing it. She's right. Thank you. And then our second winner from ISFBM is. You can read that. Okay, the name is Micah from Kengete. Is it Micah Kangete? Ngai or Gag? Is here? Okay, well done. Thank you very much. Come and get your T-shirt from Madam Churchman. If you talk to these guys from America, they will give you a very vivid way in which you can get educated. Congratulations. Right, and then our last winner, we're shaking the box again, twisting, and our lucky winner from ISFBM is, she is picking up, and can we keep on giving people from Zimbabwe? Let's jump. Sorry guys. We'll meet in Zimbabwe and we'll give you. Right, let's have somebody from Nakuru win. Or from South Africa. Or from Zambia or from Kenya, yes. We have got our good apostle Joseph Bashishi. Come and receive your T-shirt from Madam. I don't even know the size. She just gave me. I don't think it will suit you. You might find somebody in the church to give. Well done. Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Pastor. Thank you so much for joining the raffle. Right? Or this one. Okay. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Thank you very much. From ISFBM, we say, we educate and we empower. I thank you. God bless you. God bless Kenya. Thank you, Master of Ceremony.
Wow, I wanted to suggest that he withdraws the T-shirt he gave to Zimbabwe so that he can go and do it locally back home.
Thank you very much.
All right. Yeah, you can go and do it locally home. Please. Yeah, please give it to her. Oh yes. And I want to appeal that everybody who came from Zimbabwe should get a ticket back home. I mean, a T-shirt back home. Everyone that is here from Zimbabwe. All right. We are progressing well, and we want to thank Dr. Makina for his presentation, and even for what he's doing for the industry, because he really thinks about this industry and he wants the industry to be very well equipped so that the resource persons in the industry are not found wanting, so that they are very well trained and they are up to the task. So we want to thank you for the work you are doing. And so we want to get to the next speaker, who I find very difficult to introduce. Our next speaker is known as Sean Havel, and I was just talking to him, and I wanted to find out from him what is it that people don't know about him. And it was very difficult. He was not going just to let it very easily for me to know what people know about him. And it was very philosophical. He was telling me, they know everything about me, everything that they need to know. And then something slipped, and he said that he is a professor. So people don't know that he's a professor. Now you know. He's the vice president of NEDMA USA, and he's here to make his presentation. So ladies and gentlemen, let us put our hands together as we receive our next speaker, Professor Sean Abel.
Thank you so much. Well, he got my name right, Chief. You got it right. First, I'd like to thank you all for extending the invitation. Ezra, thank you. I would like to thank Augustinus, am I pronouncing it right? Now, he drove us all across Nairobi yesterday. And we were tired, but he would not stop. He wanted to take us everywhere he could. And after a 15-hour plane ride, all we wanted to do was go to the bed. But he wanted to make sure we experienced the culture, and I thank you for that. I'd like to thank, of course, the staff at Kenyatta National Hospital for inviting us and opening up your doors. We had a good time there where they toured us around their facilities. We went to Mugati. We also met the Minister of Health. We had a conversation with him, and we will be working on a few things with him. I would like to thank Chief Simon Bokenya. I met Chief 2 years ago, as he stated, and what a genuine, loving person. I think if I would have asked him for the shirt off his back, he would have given it to me if it would have fit me, okay? But Chief, don't worry. You talked about, the stomach when you was talking to Majalifer. I'm getting there. Thank you, Majalifer. I had the pleasure of meeting him as well. Dr. Churchman is the reason that I'm here, okay? If you hang around Dr. Churchman long enough, I realize you'll end up in Africa, okay? So I guess I've hung out with her long enough that I ended up here with you all. I would like to also say, in the absence of Dr. Harry Close, who wanted to be here, but unfortunately he has fractured his foot in 2 places, which prevented him from being here with you all. But he does extend his love and his prayers to you all, as well as on behalf of the National Funeral Directors and Morticians Association, where I serve as the vice president. Now, my boss is here. As it was stated, I am a professor at Eastwood College, where I teach embalming lab, chemistry, and restorative art. Okay? Under the leadership of Mr. Kyle Ledford, so I will not be remiss to acknowledge him, and let's give him a hand. He is your keynote speaker for tomorrow, and tomorrow he will introduce himself, and you will hear more about him. As an educator, and in talks with Ezra, talking about the need in funeral service and how funeral services are conducted, and more importantly, to embalming. I think Dr. McKinnon summed it up. Why do we do what we do? How many embalmers do we have in here? You don't have any? 1, 2, 3? Okay. So this is going to specifically, I just want to talk a little bit to them, but I'm going to have y'all eavesdrop in, and then I'll get to the service part as well. Why do we do what we do? And he mentioned learning by osmosis, which means that generally you go into an operation and they tell you, hey, you mix these 4 or 5 chemicals together and this is what you use on everybody. But is that the standard? No.
because we will come into contact with different remains that require maybe a different process, right? Everybody don't die from the same conditions. Okay, you may have a remains that has severe edema versus a remains that's emaciated. And so you cannot use the same arterial solution to inject those remains. So as embalmers, we have to take a step back and ask ourselves, why are we doing what we're doing? And how can I better my approach to what I'm doing? Well, it starts out by, first you have to have a pre-embalming analysis, right? We have to look at the remains and be able to tell what arterial solution should I be using? And what is my goal? Is this person scheduled to be around for a while? Or if this person is only going to be around a short time? Also keeping in mind is our job as embalmers is to restore the remains to its natural state, an acceptable state, correct? Which means that if we go in and we overly embalm the body, well, there's going to be some reactions, right? Because now the remains may turn gray on us. Ezra mentioned that sometimes the remains will have kind of a black, blotchy, petechia spotting. Well, why is this happening? Could it be that when we were mixing the formalin and the sodium borate and the sodium nitrate, which is the salt, and we mixed the phenols, maybe we were a little off. Maybe this astringent solution was too powerful for this person. And maybe I needed to reconsider what I've used to inject, right? So, if I know that I have a remains that may be around for a while, well, I have to add some things to it, like a humectant, right? Or you want to add a buffer to it, right? Which now is going to have the embalming fluid, it releases it in such a way that the remains is not going to firm or it's not going to do that graying action on you. But when you are even injecting, after you've done your pre-embalming analysis, while you're embalming, you still may have to make some adjustments, okay? Because once you start embalming, you may run into an issue, which now you have to address that issue. So embalming is not a one-size-fits-all. We have to look at what we have presented in front of us, determine what the goal is, and move forward from there. Now, when it comes to embalming, why do we do it? Well, we want to temporarily preserve the remains and also sanitize the remains, because even over here in Africa, you all still fall under the Ministry of Health, because our first responsibility is to stop the spread of infection. So I found it very intriguing that the hospital and the funeral homes were kind of in tandem, because right there it tells you what our primary job is, to stop the spread of infection. After that, now we want to look at restoring the remains in a way that the family will be pleased, okay? And you want that family to come in and you want them to be able to say, wow, what a good job. Wow, that looks exactly like my father. Wow, that looks exactly like my mother. Because at the end of the day, they're trusting us with their prized possession, their mother, their father, their child, okay? Secondly, we want to render the body inoffensive by slowing down decomposition. So once we effectively injected the remains, we want to make sure that there's no odor, there's no skin slip, no desquamation. We want to make sure that none of that is happening, because that realization that yes, my loved one has departed, and help them go through that grief process. We have our friend from Kenya Air Cargo here. So we also want to prepare the remains if it has to be transferred to another location. And we don't want anything to happen while it's on the in the cargo area where they have to call us back and say, you have to come back and retrieve this remains because it was not embalmed properly. Okay? The next thing, we want to restore the body, ultimately, to a favorable image. Okay? A favorable image. And that's when the family becomes a repeat family. Because they will remember what you did. They will remember how you prepared that remains. Now I want to cut across the field because I want to end on time. And talking to Ezra is like, you know, he gives you a lot of stuff. But we talked about restorative art. Okay, when the body has been to a traumatic event or succumbed to a disease that really, you know, the person does not look like their normal self. And how do we approach that? Well, I'm going to have to come back next time for that, Ezra, because that's a whole nother animal. Because then we're going to talk about the different approaches on embalming someone who's been through the traumatic event. Because we don't even embalm them the same way we would embalm someone. You know, we may have to do something called restricted cervical, to where we have to tie off both common carotid arteries, inject the trunk of the remains with a astringent solution, and control the arterial solution that's going to the head if the traumatic event happened to the head. But what I will say is, it all starts with knowing why you do what you do, and as the doctor said, education. Education. Because this thing we do in funeral service is not a one-size-fits-all. You all have had families who, this may have worked for this particular family, but the next family, they had something totally different in mind. And embalming is the same way. Embalming, you have to take by a case, by case, by case, by case analysis. Any questions for me? None? Everybody's smiling. That must be a good thing. Again, I am here. I talked to Dr. Churchman and I spoke with Kyle, and we're going to get with Ezra and Chief Bocanio, because what we really want to do is do some hands-on with you, to where I can kind of show you the different styles of embalming as far as a case-by-case basis, to where, you know, we'll have a body maybe with edema, a body that's emaciated, a body that's natural, and we can actually embalm the body together, showing our different techniques. But with all that said, I would like to thank you all. Ezra, it's 12:29. We're on time. Thank you.
Thank you for that presentation. What do you say again? Round of applause, I think. Now, I want to ask, because this Funeral Services Association of Kenya, it's all inclusive. There are house operators, they are here, they are getting their bit. We have those who are doing the technical part of it in terms of embalming, they are also getting their bit. There are also people who are just in the business owners, they are also getting their bit. So we want each and every person, whenever they leave this place, they feel they were part of the conference and they feel that it was worth coming here. You need to understand how people do preserve bodies, especially as an owner. It is always very bad that you are in a business that you don't even want to step in a mortuary. That kind of thing that you see, they normally use a term which I don't really like. They say, why are you in this business? And someone will tell you, it is written that people must die. The only business that is remaining, that we must take their money. You see, it is very bad. Why can't you answer it professionally the way doctors? It's like a doctor telling you people must get sick, but there is a professional way of doing this thing, and that's where we lack the communication thing. How do we communicate? To whom, and where do we do this kind of communication? So whenever people do this, because I normally get upset when you see people displaying their caskets all over in the roads and the streets near the hospitals, and then when they say, we are making more money than you people inside the mortuary. That's the reason why we want everybody to come on board. We work with you, we have an identity, so that it reaches a point that you cannot handle that business if you don't have any don't do a business that you even don't understand the pain that the people who have lost their lives are undergoing. It is always very sad that if somebody is bereaved, you are here now telling him that let him cry because that's the money from him. No, it should not be like that. Treat that person as is the only person who has lost his loved one, and then give it a personalized that thing. So anybody who has a question, because we have Sean, who is an embalmer, and I want to take this opportunity to the people working in the mortuary, ask any question, because you know in Kenya how we do it. We use our jerry cans, and then whenever we embalm, always it's a black pigment. We cannot restore the color or whatever. And then when even somebody wants to see the beloved one, they have to go around, look pictures, and that's the reason why we have so many cases, people removing the wrong. It happens here in our country, and that's the reason why we have issues of many unclaimed bodies. Yeah, it's so much that I don't feel it's something that should be happening. These are the reasons why there's no documentation, there's no proper of handing over the next of person. So we want each and every facility, there must be only one person who is responsible to oversee all the embalming cases. So the rest works under them, so that we know who that is. So any question from any person to ask Sean, because this is the opportunity and time you can ask a question. Any person?
Thank you. Can I sit down or I must stand up? Okay. Prof, sure. We are talking about embalming. Now, how to embalm a stillborn baby?
When it comes to stillborns, of course, you know, stillborns, you can't really raise their vessel, so what we do is surface embalming, topical. So you will take the fetus, you can either immerse it in, I would say, not arterial fluid, because then it will take on the dye of your fluid. So you want to do cavity fluid, but you want to make it, you want to water it down a little bit, okay? When it comes to fetuses and stillborns, right, I usually take it by how big or small they are. I'm usually pretty good if it's a stillborn carried to full, almost full term. I can raise the arteries. What I usually do is get the abdominal aorta, because that will be the largest vessel in a stillborn. You eject the abdominal aorta, and you will be able to, you know, do that through the blood vascular system, injecting and make sure you get an even distribution. But that's the largest artery when it comes to a stillborn, the abdominal aorta. So I would go there first if the baby is big enough. Any other questions?
Any other question? Ask about even the cavity embalming. How do you normally do it? Because sometimes you see somebody doesn't even understand that these trocar guns, they don't know how to use it. Because there's a time when we were doing demonstration at Kenyatta National Hospital, when we brought Dominicus Torino, you find that somebody cannot even understand the embalming equipments that they are, and they don't know what is how do we do the cavity embalming. So kindly please ask any question if you have a question. And if you feel that you are not confident to ask any question, just note it down so that you can use that forum for our next conference.
And don't worry.
The other one's here.
Don't worry, Dr. Churchman. She's gonna. It was her idea too. She wanted me to do an embalming for you all, and we're gonna bring the machine. But she said she's not providing the corpse. Okay.
Okay, thank you. The professor with us around. I wanted just to ask a very simple question. How do you do it in America? The so-called police cases. Here in Kenya, we have unclaimed bodies, whereby the police brings the body, he or she drops it there, and he signs the book that I've brought so-and-so who is unknown. And they don't even take fingerprints for such case. How do you do it in America? Thank you.
Okay, so these are individuals, I guess in America we would call them coroner cases, right? So it starts with your regulatory agencies, right? They have to pretty much work with you all, because it sounds to me like they're leaving you all on the hook because they have not properly done their job. And so now you're stuck with the remains that you don't know how to contact the family, and you just have a remains on your hand. So in the US, when someone passes away unidentified, they take fingerprints. They also, if the person is decomposed, they will take their dental records. Even if the family is involved and they're decomposed, the medical examiner is going to take the remains, and they still will have to wait until those dental records come back to ensure that that's that person before they will allow us to pick the remains up. Okay? So in the US, the police cannot drop a body off, or the coroner rather cannot pick the remains up and just say, hey, Mr. Leffert, Dr. Churchman, here's the remains, it's on you now. No, they will actually have to hold the remains, and if there is no family, then there is an indigent program to where they will take care of the burial of that body. Okay? And so I think that's what we learned yesterday when we were visiting, is that it starts with the regulatory agency that's kind of leaving you all real vulnerable, that now you all have these remains that you don't know who they are. You know? Even homeless person, they pass away, they go to the morgue. Before they call the funeral homes to handle the indigent burial, they have to run a notice in the paper for, was it 3 days? 3 days. They have to put it in the newspaper for 3 days before they can bury the body, giving the family an opportunity to see if that's their loved one. So it starts at your agency level to do their due diligence first. That way you all are not stuck, because right now you all are pretty much stuck. You know, you get a police case and they just handing you over the remains and they just walking off. And now you pretty much got an unclaimed body that you don't know who it is. The family's out there, they don't know if this person is even in your care. So I think, and we was talking with the Minister of Health, you know, to kind of let them know, and he actually agreed he's going to come and see how we do it. That way it can better serve you all, because it's like we're preaching to the choir here. It's higher than you all. And until they get it right, you all are going to remain stuck. We was even talking to the Miss Lois, right? We were saying to her, even when she was talking about shipping her remains that she put up high at work, and we told her in the US, the funeral director makes the call to the airport The funeral director gets all the proper documentation. The funeral director is going to bring that remains there. And the funeral director deals with the family. The family don't call the air cargo for anything. The funeral director reaches out to said funeral home on the other end, send them the flight schedule, and they work hand in hand. The family will never call her. They will either call me, if I'm shipping to Majalifa, they'll call him. And so that gets her out of it. But I want to say, Kyle says she should be a funeral director because her compassion and how she works, if a family called the airlines in the U.S., they're not going to do that. They're not going to do what she's going to do. They're going to tell them, you better call your funeral home because this ain't what I do. But it all starts with the higher up. It's like you all have no, there's nothing you can do until that regulatory change is made to where the funeral homes are now taking, like we are. We have the responsibility. Once the family call us, you are in a unique situation because the hospital has the funeral homes, and so by the time, if they choose a private funeral home, the body may already be embalmed and all of that, right? And so we were talking that out amongst each other because Ezra just said something when he talked about the casket people playing around in the funeral industry, right? And so pretty much bodies at the hospital gets embalmed at the hospital, but if they choose, family has to call a casket company and they have to kind of do a cart. Versus in the US, one call to your funeral director, they handle everything. The hospitals in the US, they do not embalm. A family, they'll tell the family, you need to call a funeral home of your choosing and have them pick your loved one up. They don't get involved in that part. And I think it would be beneficial to you all if you became that way, because then you have more control. Right now, you all don't have any control, when it comes to the families, because either you're a private funeral home to where, okay, now I'm getting the family, the work has been done at the hospital, now I'm just picking up where they left off, is shipping, I'm the funeral home that has the body, but however, the family is calling the airport and making arrangements there, and I don't really know what's going on, and I'm just going by what the family telling me, because the family is her, and you can show up to the airport with remains with misinformation, right? So you, as the funeral professionals, you all have no control. But if you cut the family out and you deal directly with her, you have more control. And it alleviates the confusion in the family to now you got the committee and the family calling around to everyone when all they got to do is call you. Say, Miss Alicia, what's going on with my loved one? I thought she was going to be here on Tuesday. It's Wednesday, right? So I think it's, a lot of your issues, it's on a higher tier where if you change how you regulate it, it will actually streamline what you do and make it easier. With your coroner cases, your police cases, where they're dumping them off on you, no. You guys, you need to fingerprint, you need to do dental records, and see, hey, who does this person belong to? That way, you're not holding the remains for a year or 2 years, before you can. How long do you have to hold it before you all dispose of it? Is there length of time? Anybody?
Sorry, it differs in different countries. Well, in Kenya we take 21 days, but according to the Public Health Act, but we often, to go through all the process advertising in the mainstream media, and then it usually takes a bit longer.
but in Kenya it's 21 days.
Now let me ask you a question. When you have a remains, right, there's no family, how do you all get paid when you have to dispose of that person, where there's no family to actually pay you, or does the government pay you?
Well, I work in a hospital-based setup, and for those that are claimed and ready for that disposal, the government actually waives all the bills, and then they're taken to public cemeteries.
So what we found interesting is that when we got to the hospital, there was a lot of people lined up, and we just thought they were just getting their medical records and all of that. But it was interesting how they were paying for, I guess, making sure the medical bill part was taken care of, also paying for the release of the remains, right? So, who has a private funeral home? Anybody private? Yeah, Majalifa, yours is private, right? So, if a person does not have the funds, the resources, what do you do?
I would say the same setup that is in the States, there is an indigent program as well for South Africa. So it depends when the person has passed away. Argumentally, if you have passed away at home, the municipality would then have a program of some sort for indigent burials. If the person passed away at the hospital itself also would have a indigent policy of some sort. So they all definitely get buried. Even, in fact, the prisons have got the very same system. So all different departments and different places where, depending where the person has passed on, would then be put through the particular program of an indigent burial. Thank you.
Any other questions for me?
We only just want 2 questions, please, and then we close the session. As you have seen, you see this part is always technical and it's long. You cannot discuss it within a day. And that's the reason why I wanted you people to see that there's an urgent need. Next year, if God allows us to be reached next year, November, it will be specifically 1 day speaker about the embalming and restorative art. And we shall try to realize with the mortuaries that are around here, so that we also do a practical demonstration. But this one now, it won't be open to everyone. It will only to be those who already understands the techniques of embalming, because you don't want to do like introduction somebody who doesn't understand anything. This one will be already those who are there. Now they're just trying to advance their knowledge and understand what they can put in their facility. So in that, I just only need 2 questions alone. I have one. And any other one? So let's say we deal with this one, and then we shall go for lunch.
Thank you, Prof. My question is, how do you embalm a body that has been electrocuted? Yeah, because at times we find that most arteries are blocked.
Right. Good question. Bodies that have been executed, electrocuted. Executed, right? Electrocuted. Executed is what my wife was trying to do with me, right? Electrocution, right? Sometimes, in some cases, as Augustina said, when you're injecting those individuals, the capillary wall can be seared off already due to the electrocution that went through the body, right? So basically what you would have to do is a hypodermic embalming, to where you will take the trocar, you will go down the limbs, right? First thing I would do is, if I tried to do it arterially, and it did, I would still try arterially to see if I get any type of distribution. If not, I will hypodermically embalm that body, okay? Now, I want to take it a step further. Bodies that have been involved in a fire. Bodies that have been involved in a fire, you will notice that when you embalm them, they will dehydrate rapidly. Because it's something with them being in the fire and the heat and in that environment that they will dehydrate rapidly when they come into contact with arterial chemical. So if the body has been autopsied, I always tell you to make sure you close it up first. Because you do have embalmers who, when they're doing a body that has had an autopsy, they will leave it open to just make sure everything is good, and then they will go back and suture it up. With a body that's been in a fire, you need to suture it up right away, and also keep it moist. Keep it out of heat, because heat will not be your friend, because remember, the embalming chemicals inside of the body is still working. It doesn't stop. And when you add heat as a catalyst to it, it's really going to speed up its reaction, which will cause the body to dehydrate on a rapid state. Okay? Did I answer it? Okay. That's it? Any more questions?
Professor, I wanted to find out two issues. How long did it take you to become a professional embalmer? What exactly did you do to become what you are, and all the knowledge you've got? And what? A good question, yeah? Yeah, and I have forgotten the second one, but when I think about it, I will ask.
Okay, so I started working in a funeral home when I was 16 years old. I was 16 years old. At the age of 18, I knew that I wanted to be a funeral director. And so I started doing removals, transfers for the funeral home I worked at, and it was a large funeral home at the time. They were doing 1,500 calls a year. Okay? When I expressed that I wanted to go to mortuary school in New Jersey, you can start your apprenticeship right before you get into school if you want to, which I did. And at the age of 19 years old, I'll never forget, I came into the funeral home and there was a set of embalmers, and they said, well, if you want to be a funeral director, you're going to start here first. You will learn how to embalm, and then all of that other stuff you can learn later on. And so I did. I first started just suturing up the body after the embalmer finished. Then I graduated to washing the body, and now I'm in school. So then I graduated, and then ultimately, one day I was in school and I went to American Academy, which is in New York. I was in school, and I got out of school one day, and I walked in and the embalmer said, oh, today's your lucky day. You get to embalm a body by yourself. And I said, oh yes, Lord, the day I've been waiting for. And the prep room was clean, and they had the table and the stretcher. Now, they would never do that on a regular basis, but I just thought they were being nice to me. So I go, I change my clothes, and everybody I noticed just scattered. They left. And I open up the bag, and the maggots are jumping out of the bag at me. And so now I'm like, well, what is going on? I'm supposed to embalm this body? And they said, yes. You can't hurt it. And this is where you start. And from that day on, that's why I started embalming. I had mentors who were very good, showing me anything I wanted to know, anything I wanted to learn. They showed it to me. And at the age of 22, I was a licensed funeral director and embalmer. I'm 41 now. And so I've been embalming for almost over half my life. Why I am where I am is because just like they took time to teach me and to show me, I need to pay it forward and do the same thing they did for me. Because nobody got to where they are on their own. There was somebody that helped each and every one of us in this room to get to where we are. None of us are self-made. And my thing is, I want to give back to, because I was poor, trying to do a positive thing. And they thought it was not robbery to give an opportunity. And I'm here because of an opportunity that was given to me. And I'm standing here to give someone else that same opportunity.
And then the second question is, Professor, how do we protect our patients in from using carcinogenic formalin and formaldehyde to protect them? I think in Africa we have a problem where we have got carcinogen in formaldehyde. How are we going to protect ourselves from cancer-causing formaldehyde?
I got 3 letters. PPE. Okay? I noticed that in a lot of the mortuaries I went to, doctor, you guys pretty much will mix your own fluid. Okay? Which means that you're coming into contact more than I am, because I have my fluid in bottles. Arterial solution, which is already pre-mixed, right? Which means that I come in less contact with myself, being exposed at mixing all of that stuff on my own. Now, mix it on your own, the advantage is it's cheaper. It costs less, right? But the disadvantage is that you're exposed. Versus me, I just go to the shelf. If I want 36 index, if I want a 20 index, or if I want an 18 index, and I get as much of it as I want and pour it into the machine and use water as my vehicle or whatever's going to be my vehicle, and I'm off to the races. But you're more exposed because if you're sitting there, you're measuring everything out, then those vapors are still going in. Also, ventilation is very important. You need to make sure that your prep rooms have adequate ventilation, because that will save you as well. And remember, ventilation, if you are embalming and the head of your embalming table is here, your ventilation needs to be on this side, because you want it to pull away from you. You don't want the ventilation behind you, because then that pulls everything toward you. Okay? But to your point, you know, pre-mix is the way to go. You know, less exposure, and also ventilation is very important, as well as make sure you have your respirator, your mask on, you know, and then you're very well covered. You don't want the embalming fluid coming in contact with your skin, because it can be irritating.
Thank you. So I have a question. This was an experience we had like a month or 2. So how do we, now this is a general question, so how does the funeral home package a mother who has passed on and the child at the time of birth in the same casket or separate? So I was running this through my colleague Mohammed when we were in that situation. So there are funeral homes who put in the same casket. There are funeral homes who will put a separate casket. There are those who say, oh, our tradition will not allow. There are those now, the families will say, put on the leg, on the other side of the leg. So it was so many stories, but then how do we standardize, and what's the way of uplifting the late mother and the unborn or the born child? Is it on the same casket or separately?
So I'm going to let someone from here answer that, because we in the United States, we're actually, there's a lot of things we can't do because we are regulated by the FTC, okay? So we have to itemize everything, which means that when you sit down with the funeral director and we make arrangements, we start from the beginning to the very end. The basic service of the funeral director and staff, the embalming, the dressing, how many hours of visitation, the funeral ceremony, transferring the remains, the charge for that from place of expiration to the funeral home, the hearse on the day of the funeral, if you want limousines, the casket, prayer cards, programs, the cemetery, your death certificates, the church fees. We go through it all, right? And you get one complete funeral, but it's itemized. And when you get that statement, everything has to have a place. So you can't come into our funeral home and we say, okay, with this casket, the service is XYZ. We have to show you a breakdown of what everything, each item costs. So to your question, I think someone from here may have to answer that, because we work a little different in the States, because we are actually regulated by not only our state laws, we're regulated by the Federal Trade Commission as well, which don't allow us to package things. We have to itemize everything. And there's a board. How about this? If your funeral director didn't do what they were supposed to do, it's called Consumer Affairs. And Dr. Churchman used to sit on the state board that will fine people or take your license. So there's a whole regulatory board that ensures, you know, the consumer is not being. Okay, so when it's a mother and child, depending on how big that child is, I've had a case to where I put a mother and a baby in the same casket. What I did first was I talked to the cemetery to make sure that they would allow that. And if they're fine with it, that's fine. And generally, you're going to have, depending, if the baby, and I had this before, the mother was pregnant. She didn't have the baby, and what happened was she went to the medical exam and had an autopsy. Boom, there's a baby. You don't get a permit. You don't get a permit for that. But I still was able to bury the baby with the mother. But if the baby's small enough, you know, you'll have 2 permits, and most likely they'll let you do mother and baby in the same casket. Okay? The good doctor.
Thank you, Professor. Yeah, mine just mainly dwells on some psychological effects, maybe psychosocial or psychological effects. Well, when I listen to you talk about what you've been doing for almost half of your life, I can even palpate the passion with which you know, you're doing your work and you love it. I don't know how some of us feel about the work that they do, or how they are perceived by anybody else who does not work in this industry or profession. Well, for myself, I work both in the clinical aspect, clinical side, and the microscope, and I also work with the morbid, the dead people, the mortalities, in terms of doing all these things. And in some of the meetings that we've had, maybe even across Africa, after study forensic medicine and everything, one thing that we always underscore is, you know, the respect and dignity which we have to, and it's an obligation we have to accord the deceased persons. And that's usually part of a driving force, because the person that lies there, however, is not breathing, has done so much for us, and that is actually keeping us going. So we have to accord this person that respect and dignified, you know, send-off that we often write. And we don't know what happens. I don't know what non-believers will say. We don't know what happens on the other side, but that is what it's called. So I don't know what is your experience in the US. I know you're okay with it, because I can even palpate passion with which you do your carrying your work from your pocket. My driving force is also partly that, and also since I also work with the living in terms of the microscope and all that, so trying to do some of the things other than just also an obligation to call that. There are also some statutory obligations, regulations that demand that we treat some of the diseased persons in the manner that we have to treat them.
So you're asking about my psychological.
How is it on the other side? Because the perception out there from those who don't work in the industry, for those who work in the industry, is no, forget about those guys. Those guys are caste people. No, forget about them.
Gotcha.
But despite that, they have to come to you to
Right.
give that service.
Right.
So how is it there?
How is it in America?
Yes.
So in America, in the U.S., well, you have your people who, they don't really shun us. We're actually, in America is like a community leader, okay? The folks come to you for everything, the borrow money and everything, okay? They actually see you as a community leader, and you get a lot of respect because, again, you come in contact with pretty much the whole community. And so they see you as a leader because at their lowest moment, you were there to help them pick up the pieces, okay? And we bury some of everybody, no matter how rich you are or how poor you are. You're going past the undertaker, okay? So they don't really see us as, oh, those people. You know, we'll get that, oh, you're a funeral director? Oh, you know. But then it leads into a lot of questions because it's the unknown, right? A lot of people think that embalming is archaic and like we got the bodies hanging on a hook somewhere, right? They don't understand it's reverence for the dead. And it's a very noble profession. Now, I think you asked about psychologically, how do I deal? Yeah. Now, let's talk about that part. Because we as funeral directors, we don't never talk about this. We see a lot of different things. From people who have been in accidents, to people who have been killed, to parents losing their children. And every time you sit with a family, you take home some of what you experienced, okay? You don't leave it there. Some of that goes on you. And it was not until COVID came and it was a pandemic and we were talking about therapy, right? And at the time I was in a relationship with a young lady and we were going to couples therapy. And I'll never forget what the therapist said to me. The therapist said, you know, you are emotionally unavailable. You are emotionally unavailable. And I said, oh, because I thought myself as a compassionate, emotional person. But she noticed that there was only one person that I would talk about and I would get emotional. And that was my mother. And my mother, I'm her caregiver, and she has health challenges, but every time I would talk about her, that was the only thing that really would make me emotional. And in therapy, I learned that it wasn't just because I was a funeral director, and you know, although we are compassionate, there's a business side to it, right? So we know how far we can go with the family because it's still a business, right? But then you experience your own deaths. I have two brothers, died suddenly. My grandmother died. And what do we do as funeral directors? We handle the service and keep on going. We never stopped the grief for the loved ones we lost because we're too busy worried about our families that we're serving that we forget about ourselves and our own families, right? And I literally had to take a step back and say, wow, I have some grief of my own that I have to deal with. Okay? And I have to learn that I have to find things to do to make me happy, to deal with the day-to-day, because this industry that we all chose is a high-stress industry. Okay? Because what we are receptacles for all, because as funeral directors, you're the family's accountant, you're their counselor, sometimes if they're fighting, you're the referee, you know? So you wear many hats, and that will affect you. And sometimes you be on a funeral and wonder why you crying harder than the family, and you don't even know the person. Because now you've reached the point of burnout. And we don't want to talk about burnout. But that's where you go to when you do not come in contact with what's going on with you. And getting a therapist was the best thing I did. Because I go to my therapist and I kick up and I tell her all my problems. And when I leave, I feel great. It's the best thing in the world. And you know what else I find out? Even the therapist has a therapist. Okay? So there's nothing wrong with therapy because you're in a high-stress industry to where you take on everybody's issues. And then you go home and you may have issues at home. You have an ailing mother, ailing father. Now you're working all these hours and you still got to go home and take care of your relatives. You got children. And if you got children like I do, I got little girls and they're spoiled. So you know how that goes. And you have to be available to everybody. But when are you available to yourself? And so you got to find downtime. And I took a vacation, and I'm not talking about conventions and all that. In September, I took a vacation, and that was the first vacation I had probably in a number of years to where I did nothing. And it was a true vacation. And you all have to do that because you are to no service to your families if you're under all of that. You have all of the weight on you. And sometimes we don't realize it because what's normal to the spider is chaos for the fly. So we learned how to deal in this high stress and all of this, and it's normal to us. But the outside looking in, when people telling us about ourselves and we like, no, I'm fine. You're not fine. And we have to deal with our emotions and deal with ourselves in order for us to be the best funeral director and embalmer we can be. And I'm the best I can be because, you know what? I can go to folks and I can talk to folks, and I can talk to some of my colleagues who are caregivers as well, and sometimes we sit there and we can cry together, and we laugh together, and we're sharing different stories, and that's how we thrive in this industry. Remember, we're not an island unto ourselves. All of us in here have something in common. At least we got one thing in common. We're in funeral service, right? So we all understand each other. And you know what I like about funeral service? It's like its own group. Because we all have identical stories. And it's a family. And no matter what country you go to, there's always something that we have that's the same. And you know what it is? We love people. Because in order for us to do what we do, you better love people. Because people ain't the easiest to deal with.
Wow. We could have done better than that. A friend of mine was in charge of a police station. And he would go home and he was shouting to everybody at home. But when the wife discovered that he was transferring his work to home, she started yelling back at him and reminding him that this is not a police station. So quite a number of us, we transfer, you know what I mean. We have turned our homes into funeral homes. Please remember, your home is not a funeral home. Just like what you are saying, we need to create time and go for a vacation with your family. Create time for your family. Create time for your friends. So you don't transfer your work to other social gatherings that people need you there. And that also goes to even people who are like pastors, so to speak. Some of them think that there are even demons in their homes, so they want to begin casting out demons from their families. So just understand that you do not, like, although he alluded to it, please don't be mourning more than the bereaved. Yeah, you need to understand and know your. Ladies and gentlemen, I wish he had more time. I think he has not delivered everything. He has not. He has actually not delivered everything that he needed to. And I remember when I was asking him about what people don't know about him, he was very economical. But right now, without knowing and without being pressed, he has just let the cat out of the bag. And please let us give him another round of applause. Now we are taking another break. We are going out for lunch, and then we will be back again for another session. Oh, we don't have. Come and make this notice.
Thank you, the program director. We are now going to break for lunch, and this is just a special announcement for those who have received the invitation letter. AFFS is going to meet again in the same venue here at 4. Normally our meeting takes at most 1 hour. So all international guests, please, you need to come back here so that we discuss our issues as pertaining to the African Federation. Our international guests, we also want you to be present so that you also help us how we can walk this journey so that we strengthen, standardize, and put this federation to be more powerful. To Kenyan delegates, for those who received invite, we kindly ask you to just to come and see what normally takes place in the meeting so that you understand the journey we are trying to go. So we have come to the end. After lunch, for those who want to take a walk along the beach, you can just change in your costumes. Walk along the beach. It's like the ocean has gone that side. It will come back in the evening. So you just take a walk, feel the humid, and enjoy the coastal part of Kenya. It's very nice. It's therapeutic. If you came all the way, just release your stress there. Even if you go to that ocean, that water is more medicinal. It will help you and heal you. All the diseases that you have, it will all be washed away and taken to the Indian Ocean. It may go down to South or to Somalia. You never know where it's going to. So welcome, karibuni sana, na Mungu abariki, and have a good lunch. Then those who are staying, the residents, those who are in the hotel, we shall have our dinner from 7. So we have tried to see if you can watch some Maasai do you some things, Kenyan, so at least you enjoy, as you enjoy your dinner. It will just be around here. So you can now go for lunch, just have your meal card, and then you can share. No, the lunch is just here. Yeah. They'll show you the way we are going to have. Yeah. Oh, okay. That's it. Okay. I've been reminded by my Secretary General, Mojalifa, that we don't have a dress code. It's just, you just come, just have dinner. The way we can have our normal dinner. I know in your countries you have dress codes, but see how we don't do the dress code. Can we have our pastor please to bless the food for us as we go for the lunch?
Amen. Can we pray as we are? Just bow down and we pray. Father, in the name of Jesus, we want to thank you. We want to bless your name. Thank you that this far you are with us, O Lord. We thank you for the depth of revelation we are receiving pertaining to the work that we give you glory. As your people, Lord, this past for lunch, give my Father that you may bless us. Bless the lunch that is before us. As we partake it, may benefit in our bodies for the work and service of your name. We give you honor and praise. In Jesus' name, we give you glory. Amen.
Thank you very much. We let in the
Hapana.